So let me tell you why the right, why Republicans can win the culture war. It's because of articles like this over at the National Review. Now, I've got nothing against anybody at the National Review. I've got nothing against anybody who's a Republican or a Democrat, but I think that both parties are full of crap. And this article here is a prime example of what the problem is. Prime example. So welcome back to the channel, Culture Confederacy here. It's Sunday night. Happy Sunday, everybody. And if you're new to the channel, you're not going to find any fancy graphics here. You're not going to see me come on camera and go, look at me, look at how beautiful I am, how shredded I am, how much money I have. What you see is what you get. And we try to preserve great art, music, history, and culture. You might get a tinge of politics, talk about the events of the day. But I think the problem, and I've said this for a long time here on the channel, the problem with modern art in general, is that people are just too damn lazy to create great art. That's the issue. It has nothing to do with politics. But this person, for some reason, article by Brian T. Allen, he believes that it's because of wokeism. Well, it's not because of wokeism. It's because you've infused politics into art. Now, art, in many ways, for a long time, was used as propaganda. This was done in opera. This was done in music. This was done in books. I'm not going to deny that. And you have works like Symphonie Fantastique by Berlioz. But we've come a long way since that time. Let's say books like Madame Bovary that tackled social issues of the period, to what we have now where everything's about politics. I mean, there was a time where you could separate the two. You can go listen to a Beethoven symphony, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, independent voter, didn't matter, and enjoy the music, for the sake of the art. And that's what's missing here. So the title of the article, and just to show you where this person's mindset is. Now, I'm going to just flip through the article here. It's a lengthy article for the sake of time. But the title of the article, The Worst of Woke, courtesy of the Smithsonian. So this surrounds the controversy with the Smithsonian lately, where Trump is taking away all this funding or getting rid of some of these exhibits. Then there was an article out there about the Holocaust Museum. I think it was at ABC News, where part of the museum where the exhibits were going to be closed, and it was thought that this was part of Trump's plan to just, get rid of a lot of these exhibits so he could fuel the narrative of white supremacy, which wasn't the case at all, because as it turns out, when you read the article, you have to go all the way to the bottom of the article to find out that they're just trying to update some things and to improve the exhibits, make them more user-friendly. So it says here, good and bad news in the White House's push for more balance and less bile. But listen to how he frames this. This is a real scrape. This is just too funny to me. Because if it were me and I was in this situation, I would not be doing what this guy's doing here. I'll explain in a moment here. So let's get to the first paragraph. Greetings from the swamp. Can I talk? Let me start over. Greetings from the swamp. Quiet this last week in August and balmy rather than hot and humid. I'm in Baltimore for yet another memorial service, my fourth this summer so far. A pick-me-up. I added a tour of the White House to my plans. I think I read that wrong. So basically, he's got to go, or he's in Baltimore to attend all these memorial services, or this last memorial service. And for a pick-me-up, he added a tour of the White House to his plans. I hadn't seen the public room since the 80s, so I queued with 100 or so fellow tourists for a self-guided amble. I'll write about my visit soon. Now, if it were me, I would not be going to the White House as stress relief, as part of my vacation plans, unless I was doing some type of tour of the United States, or if I'm going on vacation and I want to see Washington, D.C., and I want to see part of the East Coast, go to some of these historic sites, then I might put the White House on my list. Actually, I've been to Washington, D.C. about 3 times. My dad's from Baltimore. But I've got family in Maryland and Virginia, California, Kentucky. I also visited 4 of the 8 Smithsonian museums tagged for new in-depth monitoring and redemption, according to a detailed Let's Work Together August 12th letter from the White House culture honchos to Smithsonian boss, a lot to read here, Lonnie Bunch. There's a name for you, Lonnie Bunch. Well, that's your first mistake. You hired somebody named Lonnie Bunch to head up the Smithsonian or curate this thing. As a follow-up, on August 21st, the White House released a raft of examples of Smithsonian race baiting, fake history, DEI promotion, gender dysphoria, ballyhoo, hate America first ideology, and art that appalls in content. An expensive commissioned portrait of the liar and fraud Dr. Fauci tops the list, and in quality. Can you see the word salad here? On August 19th, President Trump tossed a Truth Social grenade at the castle. Quote, "The Smithsonian is out of control," he wrote, "where everything discussed is how horrible the country is, how bad slavery was, nothing about success, nothing about brightness, nothing about the future, and as a grace note, woke is broke. Agree." Now he's got a picture here of Moses from the 10 Commandments, that film, The 10 Commandments, starring Charlton Heston. And, of course, in that famous scene, Charlton Heston, playing Moses, has got his hand stretched out, and he's got the staff in one hand. The stormy skies above him. But they go on to say here first, it's, "We'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony." Then it's, "You're no good, you're no good, you're no good, baby, you're no good." Of course, quoting the song from Linda Ronstadt. Then via Trump, his own bad cop, with change on the agenda and challenging everyone's inner boondocks. Again, word salad. Quote, "You can do it the easy way or you can do it the hard way. This might have come from the Godfather Shakespeare of the Book of Exodus. Pharaoh, as hubristic as anyone in Washington, did it the hard way." Trump said the Smithsonian will get the same scrutiny as do the elite universities that are now in his sights and sweating. Well, it's true that the Smithsonian has gone off the rails, but the issue isn't the Smithsonian. The issue is that you've infused politics into art rather than encouraging people, to create great art. That's what the Smithsonian should be doing. That's what Trump should be doing. That's what you people on the right and the left should be doing, encouraging people to create great art for art's sake. But for some reason, you've lost that. You've completely lost it. What to make of all this? The Smithsonian has 3 problems, or call them challenges: weakness, liabilities, prejudices, delusions, manias, or at worst, strikes, you're out. Too many words here. Its philosophy, personnel, and politics make for a fine pickle indeed. I think nothing better expresses the Smithsonian's philosophical mindset than the, quote, horrifying talk about race curriculum promoted in 2020 by the Museum of African American History and Culture and the malicious, delusional 1619 Project, here we go, with the New York Times engineered and published, but the Smithsonian sponsored, were a great legitimizer, Lonnie Bunch said of the 1619 Project. And they wonder why, on the right, they can't win the culture war when you're writing articles like this. Jumbling all these words together, make yourself look smart, smarter than the other side. Now, you know about the 1619 Project, and you probably heard about the 1776 Project, and these really are just two sides of the same coin that, believe it or not, reach the same conclusion. Yeah, we had slavery, but... Well, maybe we should just realize that the 18th century was the 18th century, the 19th century was the 19th century, the 20th century was the 20th century, and we're living in the 21st century, and what was going on in the 18th or 19th century is a lot different than what we're dealing with now. And there was a different set of circumstances, and that at the same time you had slavery, and I've mentioned this before, you had indentured servitude, and you had child labor, you had children working in factories, at a time when you had very little to no child labor laws. You know, I had a discussion, about this with somebody online, because I was mentioning and I've talked about this as well, the Georgia state slave laws, that, believe it or not, you actually had laws that prevented plantation owners from maiming or injuring slaves. Now, this isn't to say that there weren't abuses that happened with slavery, because there were, we know that. But the truth is, a lot of that was, for the most part, rare. But there were laws on the books that prevented plantation owners from maiming, or was against the law, rather, to maim or injure a slave. Likewise, it was against the law for a plantation owner and their slave or indentured servant, or vice versa, to conspire with each other to commit some type of crime. And if you did own a plantation, you're required by law to register the amount of slaves you had on that plantation with your county, with the census. Tell that to the 1619 Project. So the article goes on and on here. I'm just going to flip, for the sake of time here, I'm just going to end with this. Goes on to say, there's good news and bad news. 2 years ago, I reviewed Presidente at the American History Museum, a large space of which is the temporary home of the Museum of the American Latino. That's the new soon-to-be built, or I hope and pray soon-to-be axed, Smithsonian Museum. I nearly danced Macarena when I got to the museum and learned that El Presidente was lo que el viento se lleva. Pardon my Spanish, I don't speak Spanish. Which I think is Spanish for Gone with the Wind. Bulldozed to make way for a show opening next year on the history of salsa, the dance, not the condiment. No scarlet and no red in El Presidente. Only victim after victim in this maze of duplicity that claimed to be the Smithsonian's account of American Latino history. The Trump salvos at the Smithsonian draw much from the exhibition, which covers 5,000 square feet, concocting, as it does, a running theme of oppression by the gringo. What were the curators behind Il Presente hoping to achieve? They wanted a core of young visitors to leave the show resentful, angry, guilty, disempowered as individuals, and hopeless. They think that's education. So let me get to the last paragraph here, again for the sake of time. It's a really lengthy article. But most of it's word salad. Most of it is word salad. So he's giving the Smithsonian advice of what they should or shouldn't do here. Let me get to it. This is a really long article. Okay, last two paragraphs. Now, a slice of my philosophy, or a note on what should be obvious. Everyone working for the government, in government, digs and spending government money is accountable to a higher power. And I don't mean God, Allah, Zeus, Baal, or Gilgamesh. Did you have to list all the gods here? The curators at the Smithsonian don't have tenure. They work in government museums. They need to show and naturally possess a dollop of restraint and respect for balance. That's both common sense and good politics. Asking what interests the visitors is a good thing when living off tax dollars, poking sticks in the collective eyes of half the country is a bad thing. I agree with them. 100% agree with them. It's impolitic, but it's also hubristic and self-aggrandizing. Quote, keep it positive for America 250 is a perfectly reasonable mandate, The Smithsonian can do it the easy way, or they can do it the hard way. Well, why don't we get back to our roots of creating great art? Maybe that's the answer here, and take politics out of it. But when you're stuck in the swamp, when you're stuck in DC, in the Beltway, you end up with articles like this. So I thought I'd share this with you. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for letting me stumble my way through this. Another one-take type. You can find me at Instagram, #JasonComposes, because I write music in my spare time. Thus, this mission to preserve great art, music, history, and culture. Find me at X, Culture Confederacy, Culture Confed 1 on X. Now you can find me at Substack. This is the Culture Confederacy saying peace out, keep up the culture, God bless, and I'll catch you next time. Take care.